We've been talking about, somebody say, the birthright. We've been talking about the birthright for the past few weeks. And today we're going to shift and climax on, or conclude our series on the birthright. And we're going to talk about He Changed My Name. Somebody say, changed my name. He changed my name. He changed my name. So you can have your seat. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 32. Genesis 32. Genesis 32. You can pull out your phones. Take your notes. Take notes. Yeah, you can just leave it quiet. Take notes. Y'all know how we do it. I want to lay the ground. And we want to take plenty of notes. I say it again. He changed my name. Genesis 32, begin at verse 24 through 28. Someone can read that. The next person go to Genesis 28, verse 20. So again, one person has Genesis 32. Whoever has that, y'all communicate. The other person has Genesis 28, verse 20 through 22. Then Isaiah, you go to Job 23 and 6. Yeah, everybody can read. You in the front row, you can grab a mic, get to read. See, Miss Olivia, she dipped out. She thought she was slick. So we got our readers, grab a mic. We've been talking about don't forfeit your birthright. Don't forfeit what God has for you. Then we talked about the blessings of the birthright. Today, we're still talking about Jacob. And Jacob here is at a turning point in his life that he is now about to deal with his past. I think maybe you take the bass out, cut me down just a little bit. Deal with his past. Somebody say you got to deal with your past. Got to deal with your past. You can't continue to run all the time, because as you're running, you'll find yourself being tormented and doubting who God called you to be, because there seems to be a dark cloud hovering over your life. And how many of you who are here today have been doing all you can to feel blessed, to do what God has called you to do, but yet it seems like there's still a black cloud or something from your past that quite won't let you go, and you find yourself at a crossroad. Here it is. Jacob found himself at a crossroad, and he was in the midst of preparing himself to meet his brother who he hadn't seen in a while. And the last thing his brother said to him is that when I catch this joker, I'm going to kill him. It's done. He's like, it's done. I got him. Tune in my pops, go to glory. I'm coming after Jacob. So he didn't know the mindset his brother was in. He didn't know what his brother was going to do, because the last encounter he had was that his brother was going to kill him. How many of us have been traumatized or tormented by the last words someone said to us in our past? And we've been struggling with those words and struggling with that situation to the point that if we saw them again, how would we respond? Especially if our life was in danger. So let's look at Jacob's situation in Genesis 32, verses 24 through 28. You can read.
So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me."
Okay, stop. And Jacob was left alone with a man that he was wrestling with. Jacob found himself praying, because he knew the next day he was going to have to deal with a very serious situation. So he came before God praying, and he was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to do, but this thing is tormenting me because I don't know how to handle it. I don't know what to expect. I know I'm not the same way I used to be. I don't feel the same way I used to feel. I don't do the things that I used to do. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be a situation that I have to deal with. I'm not that same person, but yet there's no closure. So here it is. He's wrestling. He's internally praying outwardly. And in the midst of him praying internally and it's manifesting outwardly, here comes the presence of God. And how many know that sometimes God won't show up until we get on our knees? And we're at a breaking point in our life, like David in Psalms 51, where our heart has been broken and we have a contrite spirit. And we're at a turning point in our life where we're like, okay, you know what? There's nothing else I can do. My hands are up. And when he decided to throw his hands up and begin to pray for the situation and his past, God showed up and began to wrestle with him. Come up here. He said, let's do this. He said, so here it is. Jacob is praying like, God, tomorrow is my day. He said, I don't know what to expect. I know what I did in my past, but God, I'm not like that no more. Me and you had a conversation. You gave me a dream. You said that you are with me, but I don't feel like it. So it is, he's praying. Then the Holy Spirit, the angel of God shows up and he said, what am I going to do? I'm not like I used to be. What am I going to do? So here it is. He's speaking to the angel of God. Grabs the angel of God like, I need help. The angel grabs him back. And he said, I need help. He said, help me. See, Jacob was wise because he understood when his father gave him the blessing, the way he got the blessing wasn't right. Somebody need to follow where I'm going with this. The way he got the blessing wasn't right. The way he got the birthright wasn't right. So everything he did to that point that he began to wrestle wasn't right. So he had to figure out how to make what was wrong be right. And he understood at that point he could no longer do it in his strength. So here it is. The angel is grabbing him. He's grabbing the angel. He's like, help me. What am I going to do? I'm not the same person. But I know that if you bless me, God, that I know without a shadow of a doubt I am forgiven. See, sometimes we try to maneuver our way to get blessed. We try to do some things so that we think that it's our work that will get us blessed, or we try to manipulate certain situations and people to think we're going to be blessed. He said, no, you got to come to me with a broken heart. He said, look, and when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. This is important. Go to Genesis 28. And we're going to come back to that one. Man. We're going to come back to that one. Go to Job 23 and 6. Job 26, 23 and 6. Somebody else go to Hosea 12 and 4.
Would he vigorously oppose me? No, he would not press charges against me.
What version is that? NIV. Boy, that's different. King James. King James said, will he plead against me with his great power? No, but he will put strength in me. When we're weak, we're strong. So here it is. He's wrestling with the angel of God. He said, I need your help. I need you to bless me. I am not the same. And because he started to get weak in himself, God began to raise up his spirit so that when he wrestled with the angel, he could not get free from the angel because he's wrestling out of his strength but God's strength. Y'all missed that. The reason the angel could not overtake Jacob was because Jacob was now filled with God's spirit. Wow. Which means that the strength, that means that the strength that was in Jacob was greater than the strength that was in the angel. That's why the angel couldn't get free. Are you following me? The only way we can be filled with his presence is when we're in our weakest state. When we know that it is no power of our own. When we know that can't nobody bring us out, can't nobody heal us, can't nobody do it for us but God. Hosea 12 and 4 says what?
For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king and without...
Oh, wait. Is that Hosanna? Which one you reading? Hosea? Yes. Chapter 12?
You said 3.
I'm sorry, 12 and 4. 12 and 4. I'm like, wait a minute. Go ahead.
3 and 4.
12 and 4.
Okay, 12 and 4. Okay.
And he had power over the angel.
Stop. He had power over the angel. We're still talking about Jacob. Keep going.
and prevailed. He wept and made supplication unto him. He found him in Bethel, and there he spake us with.
Okay, go to Zechariah 4 and 6. See, I'm building a case. These scriptures are important because when you go back to study, you will have more ammunition in your gun to fight the devil. The problem is we don't have enough bullets, but we're trying to fight. We're shooting, but we're shooting with blanks. And you wonder why the enemy is still wreaking havoc in your life because you're still shooting with blanks. I'm trying to give you some bullets. I'm trying to get you some of them 9mm to put in your Glock, but you ain't listening. Zechariah 4 and 6. So we see Hosea 12 and 4. He had power over the angel to prevail. So that's why he could not release the angel, or the angel could not push Jacob off of him, because he had this power and the spirit of God's presence in him. And the angel knew that. But day was breaking, which means that the angel knew that Jacob had to get ready to meet his brother. He said, listen, man, this has been fun. We're wrestling all, but you got to get going. He said, you got to go. But you know what Jacob said? He said, man, I ain't going nowhere. I ain't letting you go because I feel God in me until you give me a blessing. Listen, some of y'all got to understand, when you come in the presence of God and you know his presence is in the house, you should be going crazy in your praise and worship. You should be going crazy in how you pray, because you are in a place at a set time where God can do anything he needs to do in your life if you're willing to give it all to him and not let go. How dare we get in his presence and don't give it all? And then we wonder why we miss it. Because we didn't put a demand on nothing. Jacob realized I would be a daggone nut if I know I got the angel of God right next to me, the power of the Most High, and I'm wrestling with him, and I said, I'm not going to let you go till you give me a blessing. He would have been crazy to let that moment pass him up. Especially knowing what he was about to walk into. How many of us have forfeited blessings because we were not willing to hold on long enough? How many of us have missed our opportunities of breakthrough because we didn't want to struggle with it long enough? How many of us have missed wealth, finances, relationships, open doors, favor, because we didn't feel worthy enough to hold on? He said, I'm not letting go. I don't care if it's daybreak. I don't care about them kids or my wives. They're going to have to just deal with it till I get there. He said, but I know because what God promised me is going to come to pass. See, he just had a moment. Jacob just had a moment. He had already had the birthright. He already had the blessing. God already visited him in a dream and told him, man, you're going to be blessed. I'm going to take care of you. But when it came to this point of him not being able to deal with his past, he kind of forgot everything God said. How many of us, when things don't go our way, we find ourselves struggling, we forget what God promised us? We forget. Then that fear comes upon us. Oh no, my brother coming. But what did God promise you? I did him wrong, but what did God promise you? Zechariah 4 and 6.
Then he answered and spake unto me, saying, This is the word of the Lord unto Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts.
Not by power, not by might, but by his spirit. Jacob realized that when he found himself unworthy and knew he needed God, he was hungry for God. How many of us are hungry for God? He said, you know what? We're about to get down. He said, we're about to get down. We're about to get down. I'm not letting you go till you bless me. Angel said, man, today, hey, I got the roll. He said, I ain't letting go till you bless me. Because when you bless me, I know that it's done. I know without a shadow of a doubt, because of my past, if you bless me, I know it is done. Some of you got to stop letting go so soon. No matter the cost. And here it is, the angel touched him in his hip. Ow, touch this hip. Touch this hip to the point where he still didn't let go. He's holding on. He's holding on. I'm not letting go. My hip is messed up, but I'm not letting go. I'm falling, but I'm not letting go until you bless me. I know it's funny, but I need you to get a visual of what he went through. Angel touched his hip. He fell down, but he didn't let go. And I asked the Holy Ghost, why did he do his, why his hip? Why not his arm, his foot? He said, because the hip represented the socket that keeps him moving. And he needed to know that you can't do it in your own strength anymore. Did you get that? He affected his hip not only to let him know you can't do it in your own strength anymore, you have to see, in your own strength anymore, but now you're leaning and depending on me. And not just that, but it's going to be a reminder that you struggle with me and prevailed. Somebody say, are you prevailing in this season? Are you prevailing in this season? Now go to Genesis chapter 28. Let's go there. I'm giving you scriptures. I need you to write them down, study them later. 28, 20 through 22. Read loud.
And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I will come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee.
Now this is important, because when you look at everything that God had promised Jacob still turns around and says, God, because you share so much with me, I'm making a vow to you that as these things are done, everything that I have, I'm giving you back a tenth. So we talk about tithes and offering, we talk about giving. Even, it's more confirmation right here, even Jacob himself said, I'm giving you back a tenth. God didn't ask for nothing, but he understood the principle that was given to first Abraham with Melchizedek and now with Jacob and God. A vow was made, he sowed, he gave. But at this turning point of his life, he decided that I'm not going to let go. No matter what I promise I'm going to give, I'm not going to let go in this moment until I receive a blessing, because that blessing is going to change my life. Don't miss your encounter to the point you miss your blessing. Don't miss your encounter that you forfeit your blessing. Don't miss your encounter that you miss a life-changing moment that will affect not only you, but generations to come. What are we saying? Remember, it visits the third and fourth generations. We said this week that he said unto 1,000 generations. Jacob was at a turning point in his life with everything he struggled with, that from that moment moving forward, he was done. And it's so amazing if you continue to read in chapter 32, the angel of the Lord said, okay, what is your name? He said, my name is Jacob. The reason the angel asked him what his name was because he wanted to see if Jacob was going to be honest about his past. He said, my name is Jacob. I'm unworthy. I'm a supplanter. I'm a trickster. Things I've gotten in my past wasn't just done because I followed God. It had a motive behind it. I'm unworthy, even in this moment, to even be in your presence. But he knew he needed God. Two things happened. One, he admitted he was unworthy. Number two, he needed God. The word says that they that hunger and thirst after righteousness shall be filled. He was hungry for God to the point he didn't care about his hip being out of place. He didn't care about anything else but that moment. Some of us got to understand when that moment comes, nothing else matters. When the moment comes, nothing else matters because your livelihood is at stake. He didn't know what was going to happen with his brother, but he knew that if he was blessed by God, nothing was going to happen. Nothing would manifest because of the alignment, the covenant. It wasn't just an agreement, it was a covenant. God made a covenant with Abraham that transferred to Isaac, that now transferred to Jacob. It was a covenant that God had made and he didn't even understand it. He said, you know what? I'm going to change your name. No longer will you be known as Jacob, but you shall be known as Israel, which is a prince with God. Not only a prince with God, but the hip is going to be significant because you struggled with God and prevailed. How you know a true soldier? Because they got scars. Because of what they went through. The battle scars that they have. You ever seen the movies where they compare, you see this cut? Oh, I got this one. Oh, you see that? Oh, yeah, I got that. Some of us do need some battle scars. And Jacob's hip being out of place was his battle scar. That, man, I was in a war. I was unworthy. I shouldn't even be alive. My family, I messed that up. I ran. Now I was about to encounter something I didn't know I was going to come out. But guess what? This infirmity that I have is my proof that I am who God has called me to be. So don't trip because you got a cut. Don't trip if you're not like everyone else. Don't trip because you're not going down the same road. Don't trip if you've been called out. Don't trip because you're different, you're peculiar, you're chosen, you're holy. Don't trip because you don't fit in. You're not supposed to. Because he has changed your name.